Hello friend, Modi Promise is my name. Welcome to biology class. The theme of the lesson for today is organism and its environment, and our topic is relevance of biology to agriculture part 5. In this lesson, we shall be focusing on diseases of agricultural importance. Let us take our learning objectives as we begin the lesson. By the end of the lesson, you should be able to define disease. Also, you should be able to list some common diseases of plants and animals. Next, you should be able to describe some plant and animal diseases of agricultural importance. And lastly, you should be able to describe the different methods of disease control. The activities of pests on agricultural produce is a major concern to farmers all over the world. Plants cultivated and animals used as food or marketed as agricultural commodities are often attacked by pests. These pests carry pathogens which are microorganisms that have the ability to cause disease. When pathogens enter the body of plants and animals, they interfere with vital functioning process in a manner that hamper growth, damage cells, reduce productivity, and even lead to disease which may lead to untimely death. These pathogens cause diseases in plants and animals. Now, let us move on as we look at diseases of agricultural importance. When pathogens being carried by pests enter a farm or an agricultural produce, they cause diseases which disrupt normal functioning or structure of the whole body or parts of the body. Now, what is disease? Disease is defined as an abnormal condition that causes a disorder in the form and structure of an organism marked with signs and symptoms. Every organism that causes disease is known as a disease-causing agent or causative agent. Examples are virus, bacteria, fungi, etc. It is worthy to note that pathogens are carried by pests and they cause diseases. Such pest that carries pathogens is known as a vector. Vectors transmit pathogens to their host, which is plants and animals, through bite during feeding. Now, we are going to be looking at diseases caused by pests to plants as we move on. We have the Rossetti disease of groundnut, cassava mosaic disease, the powdery mildew, and the cotton ball rot. Briefly, we are going to look at these diseases, starting with the Rossetti of groundnut. Rossetti of groundnut disease is caused by a virus. This virus is transmitted by a vector called the aphid. Aphids transmit Rossetti disease to groundnut plants. Some common symptoms of Rossetti disease include yellowing of leaves, stunted growth, light and dark patches on leaves, etc. This image is showing us aphid, the vector which transmits Rossetti of groundnut disease. Now, let us move on as we look at the second disease of plant, which is known as the cassava mosaic disease. The cassava mosaic disease is caused by a virus. The virus is transmitted by a vector to cassava plant, and the name of that vector is known as the white fly. This is a typical image of a white fly. Some common symptoms of cassava mosaic disease include white, pale yellow, or pale green spots on leaves. As we can see from this image, a pale yellow cassava mosaic symptoms on the leaf of a cassava plant, twisted leaves, stunted growth, etc. The next plant disease we are going to be looking at is known as the powdery mildew. The powdery mildew is a disease caused by a fungi. This fungi is transmitted by a vector known as the woolly aphid to some crops like the apple, grape, legume, etc. A common symptom of this disease is white patches which appear on the stem or leaves of plants. This is a typical image to show common symptom of powdery mildew on a plant. As we can see, there are white patches on the body of the stem of the plant. The last disease of plant we are going to be discussing is known as the cotton ball rot. Cotton ball rot is a disease caused by bacteria and virus. These bacteria and virus are transmitted by a vector known as the stink bug. This is a typical image of the stink bug. Some common symptoms of the cotton ball rot disease are shrunken balls, stained ball lint, rot on the ball, etc. This image shows us a cotton ball that has a rot on it. Having looked at some diseases of plants, let us move on as we look at some diseases of animals of agricultural importance. Some diseases of animals that we are going to be discussing are the rinderpest disease, the Newcastle disease, coccidiosis, and the anthrax. Let us start by looking at the rinderpest disease. Rinderpest disease is a disease caused by a virus. This virus can be contracted through direct body contact and ingestion or drinking of contaminated water. This disease affects some animals and they include the cattle, buffalo, etc. Some symptoms of this disease include fever, diarrhea, dehydration, abdominal pain, etc. The next disease we are going to be looking at for animals is known as the Newcastle disease. This disease is caused by a virus. It is transmitted through direct body contact with an infected animal or bodily fluid discharge with an infected animal. Affected animals for Newcastle disease include domestic fowl, dogs, goose, etc. Some symptoms of Newcastle disease include respiratory disorder, nervous disorder, and digestive disorder. From this image, we can see a domestic fowl suffering a nervous disorder with the neck in this position. Next, we are going to look at coccidiosis, which is another disease of farm animals. Coccidiosis is a disease caused by a protozoan. This protozoan is spread from the feces of an infected animal to a healthy animal. Some common animals affected by coccidiosis include poultry, goats, cattle, and dogs. This is a typical image of a domestic fowl suffering from coccidiosis. We can see that it passed out feces with blood stain. Lastly, we'll be talking about anthrax, which is a disease of farm animals. Anthrax is a disease caused by a bacterium. This bacterium is transmitted through contaminated water, feed, etc. Some animals commonly affected by anthrax include cattle, sheep, goats, etc. Some common symptoms of anthrax include lack of appetite by the animal, blood oozing from the mouth, nose, and anus of animal, sudden death, etc. This is a typical image showing sudden death of animals that have contracted anthrax disease. Having looked at diseases of plants and animals, it is important to know the different methods of controlling disease. Now, let us move on to look at disease control. Disease control is defined as any measure used in reducing or eliminating disease-causing agents. Some methods used in reducing disease-causing agents include physical method of control, cultural method of control, and chemical method of control. Physical method of disease control involves the removal of hosts of disease or reduce pathogens that cause disease. It can be achieved by uprooting affected plants or isolating affected animals to avoid disease spread. Also, ensuring proper and regular sanitation. We can also control it by applying steam, hot air, or hot water on seed infested with pathogens. And lastly, we can use heat from the sun to control these disease-causing organisms. Next, we are going to look at another method of disease control known as the cultural method. Cultural method of disease control involves the use of planting materials to reduce the buildup of pathogen or reducing pathogens around plants and animals. This method can be achieved using modified planting methods such as crop rotation, weeding, and the use of disease-resistant varieties. The last disease control measure we will be talking about is known as the chemical method. The chemical method of disease control is the use of chemicals to kill pathogens that spread diseases to plants and animals. These chemicals can be applied on the soil or on the bodies of plants and animals. Examples of chemicals used to kill pathogens are fungicides, herbicides, and nematicides. Fungicides are chemicals used to kill fungi, which cause diseases to plants and animals, while herbicides are chemicals which are used to kill herbs and weeds which compete for nutrients with plants. Nematicides are chemicals used to kill nematodes, which are parasites that attack plants and animals. We have finally come to the end of today's lesson. But before we go, let us take a look at what we have learned in a summary. In summary, we learned that disease is a condition that affects the functioning of the whole body or part of the body of an organism. We also learned that some common diseases of plants include rosette of groundnut, cassava mosaic, powdery mildew, and cotton ball rot. We also learned that rinderpest, Newcastle, coccidiosis, and anthrax are some common animal diseases of agricultural importance. And lastly, we learned that the physical, biological, and chemical methods are measures used to control the spread of diseases in plants and animals. Now, let us test ourselves with some questions to know how well we have learned so far. A common symptom of Newcastle disease is dash. A. Dehydration. B. Blood-stained feces. C. Excessive water intake. Or D. Nervous disorder. The correct option is D. Nervous disorder. Question number 2. The causative agent of powdery mildew disease is A or an dash. A. Bacterium. B. Virus. C. Fungus. Or D. Animal. The correct answer is C. Fungus. This will be all for this lesson. I believe you now know the diseases of agricultural importance in plants and animals, and also you can describe the different control measures. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.